Hello, person on the internet, and welcome to my channel. Now, do you believe in coincidence? And where do we draw the line between coincidence and maybe there's smoke to a fire? 1 in a million? To my left, I have the coordinates of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. And on my right, I have the speed of light. And they are exactly the same. All 6 digits, 1 in a million chance, right? So if you look at the north coordinate, goes 2. We scroll over to the other side, look at the speed of light, it's 2. Well, that side, it's 9. We go to the other side, 9. I've spoken about this before, but I want to expand on it and bring some new points, as well as a recent conversation I had on Facebook. So, you know, you've probably heard, the saying that all roads lead to Rome, but the more I research, the more I begin to discover that all roads lead to the Great Pyramids. And I'll show you this in a number of ways. Yeah, but who can actually forget the, just get my mouse over here, the American $1 bill and why they decided to put this. Also, if you go ahead and you go calculate the numerology of the speed of light, all adds to 1, right? And we all know at the closer you go to the speed of light, the more things start to shrink and get smaller and smaller. You know that thing, length contraction? If you don't go search it up, you get smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, if you could reach the speed of light, theoretically, they say it's impossible for anything with mass, but if you could, right, there'd be no size, right? But let's say you're traveling in a spaceship, if you get closer and closer to the speed of light, things will get smaller and smaller and smaller, but at the speed of light, there would be no distance between things. Everything would be 1, right? Like at the top of the pyramid. Anyways, we're going to get into this and a couple of things, but yeah, it's good to see you all. It's been a while actually since I posted on this channel. I remember my very first videos actually did like quite well, like 24,000 views and stuff, and then I just stopped, and then alarm clock, got some food on, I pressed pause in a few moments, go check it out. But yeah, it did quite well, and then I took a break and then did some new ones, like 17, 18 views. Anyways, I was just minding my own business. I was on YouTube, and then a friend posted something on quantum mechanics, so I couldn't help but answer because it's a topic I'm very interested in and have researched for many years. Now, if you don't know what quantum mechanics is, I will talk about that in a few moments. But yeah, it's like, so I did a response, spoke to him, and I thought, well, if I'm gonna like be typing this thing out, might as well also do a video on it for content creation. I won't mention the person in this video, obviously, because I didn't ask his permission. If he wants to be there, I just speak about what we spoke about. But hold that thought, I just want to go check on the food that I'm cooking. So just give me a few moments. There's a pause button here. Now that was pause share. Where's the pause recording? There we go. Right, so yeah, I posted his original, well, I posted his comment here, but I've changed some of the wording because you can actually type exact phrases onto a search engine and find stuff. So I didn't know if that but yeah, just change the wording so just to protect privacy and stuff, and they can't actually search this sort of thing. But it's the same sort of scenario and of what he said. So well, imagine the scenario, right? Imagine there are 2 adjacent rooms, okay, with a wall separating the doors of each room. Both doors are open. Now we fire bullets straight through one door. Let's call it door 1. So we've got 2 doors. There's door 1 and there's door 2, and they're next to each other. And we fire at door 1. These bullets travel in a straight line through door 1, only hitting the wall directly behind it. Okay, we inspect the area behind door 1 and find bullet holes, just as we expected. Out of curiosity, we enter the second room through door 2 to see if anything unusual has happened. Surprisingly, we discover bullet holes behind the door 2 as well. Moreover, we notice bullet holes on the wall dividing the 2 doors. Now, okay, this leads us to understand that the bullets, which represent particles, behaved like, okay, waves. Maybe I need to explain this. I'm not going to read the the rest of it because we need to just explain some things in quantum mechanics, like what do I mean by behave like waves, right? But yeah, let's start with this point. So, he made this post and he goes on to say, well, if you find this scenario weird or even impossible because we only fired at door one, well, this sort of thing happens all the time in the realm of quantum mechanics. Well, what the heck is quantum mechanics, Andrea? I'm just going to do a little recap for anyone who doesn't know, but I won't take too long. Uh, I'm just going to explain quickly what quantum mechanics is and then give some videos that you can watch if you want to understand in more detail. I'm just going to explain what it is, and then I want to get into what we discussed. Because basically I'd lead into, well, spirituality, and funny enough, how the ancients knew this stuff before science. Now, that's the reason why I showed you that speed of light and the coordinates of the Great Pyramids, because before you go, whoa, Andrea, you're nuts in the head, right? I wanted to do that to open your mind a little bit because, well, how did this happen? In fact, actually, on the scale of coincidence, just mathematically to prove, um, you know, just the scale of this coincidence, let me just get out a calculator. Pause this recording over here. Give me a few moments. Look, if you really wanted to get pedantic and actually work out the likelihood of the coordinates of the Great Pyramids being the same as the speed of light, you could use a probability formula. Keep it simple, just use a normal probability formula and say, well, we work in base 10. So there's 10 possible digits we can get from 0 to 9. So there's the bottom. We've got 10 possibilities, and every single possibility is 1 out of 10. Now, if you know probability maths, great. If you don't, I'm just kind of summarizing here, you'll get the bigger picture. You take 1 over 10 to the power of 6 is basically a 1 in a million chance, right, of this happening. And I know there's millions of structures in the world, but we didn't just pick any. We picked the Great Pyramid of Egypt, the most famous one. And why is this? You'll find there is a lot of these sort of coincidences. Second question, why don't you know about this? And that is a very good question to be asking, my friend. Okay, but anyways, we'll circle back to this like in a few moments about why this could be, and anyways, let us continue, with the quantum mechanics thing. So everything behaves with laws of physics, right? I drop this pen, it falls, right? There's mathematical laws, 2 plus 2 makes 4. And as we began throughout history from 0 AD, maybe even before, all the way to our present day, we began to think that, the universe is objective, that there is an absolute reality. So to explain this, I cannot be in 2 places at once. Anyone disagree with me? I mean, can I be recording this video and also making food in the kitchen? Well, the answer is no. And you would know a few moments ago when my timer went off, I had to go over to I had to stop the video, go over to the stove and, turn the stove off. So, I mean, I can be at 2 places at different times, but I can't be at 2 places at the same time. Well, that's just common sense. Well, not really, actually. We thought it was common sense. It's like, we'll often say, dude, it has to be one or the other. It can't be both, right? You can't just have many things and all possibilities being right. And enter into the room atoms and photons and protons. And as we began to develop and our technology got better, and we began to probe smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, it was discovered, but hold on, these atoms aren't making much sense. What we concluded, and I can show this through experiments and I can quote them, but yeah, you can research this. What we have proven, and this is mainstream science, is that an atom doesn't really behave like you, and they're rebels. So while I can only be at one place at a time, the electron is in all the possible places, but more likely in the places you're more likely to find it. It can actually be in multiple places at once. And because of this, what is usually supposed to be a particle actually merges, blurs out into this cloud, or what we call wave of potential, actually. Because what this thing starts to look like is a wave, right? So electrons, protons are all over in many places, right? It gets weirder. When you look at the thing, or you put a measuring device, rather than being at many places at once, it goes to being at one place, right? Let me give you a source before you think that I'm just, for people who are new to this, you think I'm like crazy, right? Some, I don't know, you think I'm a hippie or something. Can electrons, I mean, this basic stuff, so I won't take too long on this, be in multiple places? No electron cannot be multiple places at once. It's Quora, basically. These are people, these are individuals answering. So I'm going to go further down. If an electron can be in two places at once, that's Discover Magazine, which is the case. Let's define superposition. Can an electron be in a superposition, and what does that mean? Electron be in a superposition, and what does that mean? Okay, when an electron is in a superposition, its different states can be thought of as separate outcomes, each with a particular probability, right, of being observed. An electron might be said to be in a superposition of two different velocities, right? Oh, yeah, so that can also be, yes, it gets funny. It's not just the position, it doesn't need to be, it's just not just a position that can be in multiple places. It's many other factors. Its speed can be in multiple, it can have multiple speeds. You have multiple spins. Okay. If this is sounding weird, don't worry. It confused a lot of mainstream science, but in fact, experiments seem to show this to be the reality. And yeah, that's actually what he was pointing out. Okay, now there's a few other points. Just know, okay, to summarize, classical physics, and it works on an exact set of laws and principles. And we have quantum mechanics, which is the rebel. It influences mostly very small objects, but it can go to big objects, and it doesn't need to follow the rules of normal physics. In multiple places at once, multiple speeds, can do what it wants. It works with probability and likelihood. It doesn't work off an exact set of laws and principles. Like if I throw a tennis ball through Newtonian physics, if I know the speed and velocity and stuff, I can calculate exactly where it's going to end up. Not a quantum particle. All I can check is the likelihood. The next bizarre thing we mentioned, you observe it, and it's almost like this dead non-conscious matter knows it's being watched and gets camera shy, because when you observe a quantum like let's say an electron that's in many places, when you observe it, boom, it goes to being in one place, and all of a sudden it follows the laws of normal physics again, as if it had intelligence, like the thing knew it was being watched. There's good reason for that, because you are a large object and you follow the laws of physics, and when you put a measuring device which also follows the laws of physics, those two things get entangled, right? I'm going to give you a video in a few moments that will explain this more. The other weird thing is this concept of entanglement. And entanglement, in a nutshell, is when two particles touch and you send them far away and you do something to the one, the other is instantly affected and their information is linked faster than the speed of light, as if they're communicating with each other. That's a simpler summarizing here, right? But this has been proven through experiments. So basically, in special relativity, nothing goes faster than the speed of light, right? That's an absolute, we've observed all over nature. The problem is quantum entanglement seems to break this rule. Again, they are just rebelling against the laws of physics here. Someone will do something. Yeah, flip. So when two particles are entangled, right, and you send one, so okay, I'm going to tell you, let me give you another analogy. The Earth goes around the sun, right? special relativity says if the sun were to mysteriously just disappear out of existence, God knows where, God just took it out of existence, the Earth is still going to circle around the sun for 8 minutes, because that's the amount of time it takes light to reach the Earth, before the Earth actually loses its orbit and goes into space. And that's mainstream science. It's the law of causality. It's known as the speed of causality. Go search it up. And even gravity, the gravitational pull the sun exerts on the Earth cannot go faster than the speed of light. Cause and effect cannot go faster than the speed of light. And we find this over and over and over. Flip, quantum mechanics, right? So yeah, a couple of odd things. I have my explanation as to why quantum mechanics behaves the way it does. I think the laws of physics is like a grid or defined net. Think of a trampoline. When you're looking at a trampoline from afar, it looks solid. When you go close, or it's like, you know, also with those clothing that you knit, when you go close, you can actually see it's actually grid-like. There's like little gaps, right? Well, large objects don't really notice the gaps in the grid. Very small objects can slip through. I imagine the grid is the laws of physics, right? Very small objects have the ability to just slip through the laws of physics, right? That's my explanation based off research from multiple things, right? So that's a background. Lastly, before I before I move from this point, I just want to recommend 2 videos that are very useful. I think if you want to, you know, search the background of quantum mechanics, if you go onto the internet now, oh, let me just share my screen over here. Let's do a screen share. Okay, so there's 2 videos. One, okay, second one's going to be more of a scientific video, but if you want just something simple, you're like, Andrea, you're confusing me here. There's a little cartoony video that animates the whole thing. Very simple, easy to understand, and I love the way they do it. So I recommend you go and you type Dr. Quantum double slit experiment, and as corny and cheesy as it is, does a good job and it gets the point across, right? So yeah, you got this guy flying around, some Einstein thing, and he goes and but then he kind of like reanimates the experiment, and they show, oh, another thing of quantum mechanics is sometimes they behave like a solid particle, but when they're in multiple places at once, they behave like waves. It goes on. So here it describes something known as the double slit experiment, and that is basically the foundation to quantum mechanics and how it works. There's a one actually over here. I just want to show you that. Basically, it shows how it's in multiple places at once, so it goes through both slits actually. So what is actually going to happen is the particle is going to go and go into all the potentialities until you put a measuring device, which they decided in this cartoon form to depict as a little eye, you know, looking at the thing. And when that eye looks at it, it goes into being a solid piece of matter, right? And it behaves laws of physics because for some reason, very small particles are camera shy. I don't know why. Anyways, enough of that. Oh wait, the other video. Let's just get into that one. There's another very good one. I must mention this one's more scientific. If you typed over here, okay, enjoy this one. Explained the double slit experiment by Mindhush. If you want, you know, something more technical, this is also a great video. This guy is given a talk, so giving you 2 videos. So watch that, get up to speed. But yeah, anyways, going on with this video. So anyways, I was actually on Facebook and I saw this post. He's talking about quantum mechanics. I'm very interested in the topic. And I say to blah, 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 I'm talking. And then I say, but by the way, you know, the ancients knew about this for many years. You know, only imagine the response. Obviously, he wants proof and evidence, which is fine, which I gave it to him. We went to the same Christian school. I can see he's no longer a Christian, and I understand why. I actually am not a Christian, at least in the modern definition of what a Christian is supposed to be, more spiritual. But after going to that school, I was really bugged at the contradictions in the Bible that no one could explain, and a couple of things, and eternal hellfire. But God is perfect and all powerful and loving. Like, you have to drop one of the fundamentals of God. Either He's not all loving, and there, okay, there you go, He can send people to hell, or He's not all powerful, or and it was like red tape. Like, they didn't want to touch that. So I spent 11 years researching and looking into it. It was actually what I wanted to do with the channel was invite an audience into my research and join me in the learning and all the stuff. And my videos in the beginning did surprisingly very well. Like, first videos like this one, 24,000 views, 7,500. Then I took a big gap, and then after some years later came back, like 43 views, 69 views. Oh, that's a nice number. Yeah, but anyways, I think I'm going to upload more content, especially if I spend time in this Facebook post getting sources and things. Might as well use it for content creation. So I'm going to read his comment. Now, I'm not going to mention his name for privacy, and I haven't pasted exactly, because you can type an exact phrase into a search and find it, and obviously I want to respect this guy's privacy, so I've created my own version of it. So it goes like, let me have moments over here. Like, reading it again, just give a summary. Remember, 2 doors, you only fire in the one. I'm going to read it like the whole thing again, but the summary, you fire in the one door, but it ended up going through both. So he's basically saying it's weird. I'm saying, yep, that's quantum mechanics for you. We've known about this throughout a long time. Then he wanted proof that the ancients knew this sort of stuff, which I gave to him, and now I'm sharing with you. I would love to see your opinions in the comments, whether it's contrary and you like disagree, like, Andrea, you are off your rocker, you're crazy, this is why. Great. I love discussion and debate. Maybe like, yes, I know you have something to add. Oh yes, you might want to look into this. In fact, actually, from my other videos, I've learned a lot from some of the stuff people have posted in the comments. So let's see. Let's start with, I'm actually going to scroll it a little bit down and just mention this point. You might have heard of the aura. Um, and I'm going to mention the aura, and then I'm going to talk about the human magnetic field, which is a real thing. It's been proven. But what is the aura? Well, for many years, ancients have spoken about that there's this invisible energetic field you cannot see, you cannot touch, but you can feel, and it's around every living thing, and it's an energetic field. Now, this was before we had intricate devices to measure electricity, magnetic fields. We didn't have things like voltmeters and stuff like that, and aerials, but they said every living thing has this magnetic field. And as time would go on, and in the future, we would use, we would discover the heart's magnetic field. Here's a screenshot from a Wikipedia page, and we'll discover many animals can actually detect this magnetic field. Everything has a magnetic field, right? And it wasn't only that there was this energetic field that they got right, it was many of the intricate details about it, right? We've also proven now, I'll get into this, that when you are feeling ill or you're feeling bad and you're next to someone, your magnetic field can influence them, right? So yeah, so anyways, going back up here, let's so what I start with is I start with the magnetic field, because I believe it's essential. I believe a lot of magic involves the magnetic field. In fact, magnet, if you go back far enough, it means, in fact, let me just pause and show this to you. Okay, so I'm going to read this. Humans can detect quantum fields, and birds can also do so through entanglement. So there's 2 points I wanted to mention. Okay, so the ancients spoke about this invisible auric field, but that was before we had technology to detect it, kind of indicating that our biology actually has the ability to sense these magnetic fields, or else how else would they know? And as time went on, science would go on to confirm, well, yes, or at least birds can, and they would even go on to say not only that they can detect a magnetic field, but they can do so through quantum entanglement. That quantum entanglement is a very likely explanation as to why, right? And then they'll go even further and say, but humans can actually detect these magnetic fields, and it's proven by scientific studies. I'll show you, and it's also something that one can practice, right? So I'll read here. Here are some points below that led me to the idea that quantum mechanics confirmed that ancients have been, uh, where quantum mechanics confirm what ancients have been saying for years. As for what I wrote, okay, blah, 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 I am going into how awareness comes before matter rather than the materialist notion that matter gives rise to awareness. Because it's like two theories. Materialism says, our awareness comes from the dead matter and the chemicals, and these things do not experience, they don't live, but when they get arranged in complex ways, it gives rise to experience. I would disagree. Look, when dead matter can arrange itself in complex ways, it can give rise to intelligence. In other words, a computer's ability to process information. But is a computer experiencing those ones and zeros? And at what point does it start to experience? And how do you tell? A robot can tell you that it's like, having a bad day, or it can sense a wall, but does it actually experience that wall? Or is it no different than two gears rubbing off each other, right? Does the robot go to a wall, a button pressed, electrical signal goes in like clockwork, it moves away without even experientially or through its awareness knowing that it's not a wall, it's just cause and effect. So my thinking, if you push, was like, I don't know how dead matter can arrange itself in a complex way to make life. Maybe it's possible, but I do know that awareness can arrange itself to give the impression of matter. We experience this all the time in dreams, and people who have hallucinations, stuff like that. When you dream, you're touching, you're feeling, you're smelling, all this sort of stuff. There's all this matter in the room, and one would say none of it is there. Is it there? But we say none of it is there. But the arrangement of awareness gives the impression of that matter, that is matter. And some people might say to me, but Andrea, awareness comes from the brain. That's been proven, to which I would disagree. I said, but Andrea, somebody knocks their head, they forget things, or their awareness changes, or maybe they might start having visions. And I'll say, yes, you knock a radio and you start either hearing white noise, it goes to the wrong channel. I can take a magnet to the radio and it will change. That doesn't mean that the voices are coming from the radio. And further on in this video, or maybe I might need to do a part 2, I'm going to just point out how, how basically the human brain, cannot be explained with classical physics, because as technology increases and we're able to put more and more information on smaller and smaller microchips, okay, there is a limit to that, because our computers up until now have been based off classical physics. The problem is, the smaller you go, the more the atoms and things don't follow the laws of physics. So if you could theoretically store information onto a single atom itself, and then as a binary digit, like as a 1 or a 0, it's a bit of a problem, Jose, because that atom is spin up, spin down here and there, so it will be a 1 and a 0 at the same time. Now, scientists have found a work around this. We've invented, since quantum computers, that work differently. Actually, they've found clever ways to exploit the laws of quantum mechanics. And you can search Google's D-Wave computer or IBM, but yeah, so like we have been able to do this. But the funny thing is, our brain is still far more advanced than anything a human has invented. You check the world's strongest supercomputer, and we're going to go through all this. it doesn't compare to the brain storage per cubic inch. We've got more, right? So if the human brain is so advanced and we're only just discovering quantum mechanics, it's very reasonable to think our brain might be a quantum device, and I'm going to get into this in a few moments, right? And what that means. But anyways, I'm going to say, to summarize my thinking on this into a sentence, it's very easy to see how awareness can be arranged to give the appearance of a physical world that is not there. You know, a lot of ancient cultures believe this world was illusion. In Hinduism, there's a word Mara, and they believe this world was illusion. They actually believe that Shiva, you know, their god, dreamed the world into existence. I'm just going to type Shiva dreaming world into existence. And it's like this very nice image where he's lying on this bed of serpents. Okay, I don't like Quora, but here it says indicates that you are subconsciously or consciously being. Oh wait, to see no 6 signs, secrets of dreamed. Book, can't seem on a quick link. Yeah, but there's this concept that the world was actually dreamed into existence. If you look at an image, oh, I don't want to type actually multiverse. So yeah, the story goes, the start of creation, you know, Shiva's lying on a bed of serpents and just visualizes everything. Well, in quantum mechanics, there's something known as the simulation hypothesis, and this is the idea that we are not living in a physical world, we're living in a simulation. Because think about it, in a video game, you walk behind a wall and you see a tree. Was that tree actually there before you looked at it? It's more like you go around the wall and then it generates the tree. You ever seen those old games where you walk, and all of a sudden a tree appears out of nowhere, right? And you walk back and the tree disappears. It generates the world as you go. When we look at quantum mechanics, that seems to be a little bit the case. Also, things like massive objects slowing down time, well, that makes sense. It's in computer something, there's a lot of information, might slow the processing speed. So there's actually this theory being taken very seriously by mainstream scientists, like called the simulation hypothesis. You know, many years ago, they would think you were crazy for something like that. And did a video like, is our universe pixelated? But anyways, so then on the other hand, if we assume the assumption that matter is dead, it is difficult to explain the hard problem of consciousness. So yeah, and then what I do is I go on to give 2 links talking about. So I start off with the magnetic fields. There's this invisible energetic field, and just about all biological life can actually sense it. I'll show you in a few moments. Humans can sense it too, according to mainstream studies. But let's start with the birds. And what's cool about the birds is they don't just sense the magnetic field. It specifically seems to be through quantum entanglement. Here's a video I recommend on this point. It's by PBS Spacetime, pretty mainstream. There's a dove, and they explain the whole thing. Right? You'll see a magnet somewhere there. Okay, very good video. And then we have, it's another good one over here. It's also pretty mainstream. Let's open that. There. It's also a very good video on this topic. Okay, then going further down, so before I get into the evidence that humans can detect, you know, magnetic fields, something that I say above is that there's 2 kinds of evidence that I am going to discuss. One is the kind of evidence that we can find in scientific journals, research experiments like what I have been doing, but we must not undermine what I call the second category of evidence, which is, well, let me explain it this way. How do you explain color to a blind man so that the image of yellow will pop in their mind, right? Yellow is happy. Okay, cool. I know the blind man says, I know happy. I feel it from my heart. No, but it's not like it's, no, it's like this thing that you see. Well, what is seeing? I'm blind. Okay, well, yellow has got this kind of glow. You can't do it. How do you write about sound to the deaf? You can't. No essay will explain sound. they can only experience it. And we are so used to words. We're so used to like, that's a problem with scientific journals. They use words, but they can't not use words because we haven't figured out telepathy. So we're in a bit of a conundrum. So what I've just explained is the fundamental basis of gnosis. And gnosis is experiencing something firsthand. And we as humans, we're so used to, you know, we often say, give me the proof, like you have to be able to verbalize it. And that is not always true. So I also go on to say, well, the second category of evidence that cannot be shared because it may consist of internal visions, but are testable if one puts in the time, but it's only provable to the individual. Although it cannot be shared, a first-hand experience once reached can be undeniable to that person. So it's something like, let's say, you know, two people claim to have telepathy. Well, maybe they're acting, maybe they're lying, right? You know, how do you know? Somebody claims to have had a prophetic dream. There are people who've claimed to predict the future, and you say, well, you know, either it was a coincidence or they were lying. However, to the person who maybe have experienced that, you know, for them it's proof, but it's only proof for them. They have nothing to show for it. This is the second category mustn't be undermined though, because it's very useful. And I actually recommend people research in both. So as you research, you know, in the external world, also go internally. Try meditate, try lucid dreaming, dream interpretation. Can you astral project? Can you produce DMT naturally? And if you want to ingest it externally, maybe go to a country where it's legal or something, you know, there's legal. But yeah, like how, you know, the internal experience of things you will never experience in the physical world. So those are the 2 points. And anyways, what I go on to mention over here is, as I said above, I have 2 categories of evidence. So having already given public experiments, I'm also going to add that if one gets deep enough into mind-brain coherent state during meditation, you will feel a pull sometimes. Then when you're done, if you compare it to a compass, which I've done so before, it is often either north or south. Sometimes when I'm meditating, you might feel this pull in this direction, and you don't know where north or south is, but you check afterwards. Sometimes that can be quite accurate. Okay, now do you know the Earth has a magnetic field, and that is an aura. We call it the aurora lights, right? Quite funny, actually, quite interesting. You go to the North Pole over here, aurora lights. Right, you can actually see that. And the ancients used to say that, you know, it's very good to walk without shoes, to ground with the earth. Okay, so I say here, so there's something known as the Schumann resonance, right? And the Schumann resonance is the Earth's magnetic field, and it's very good for health, right? It's very good for health. And just to show, this is mainstream, this is all, I'm quoting all experiments here. This isn't like hippies sitting around a campfire. There's a Wikipedia page. Some people are very skeptical, say Wikipedia is not mainstream. Well, check the references there, but you can only go like big think over here and scroll down. You even find .gov sources. I mean, okay, here's NASA. You believe NASA is mainstream, you trust it. It's a .gov website. Only the US government can get a .gov website. Okay, and is the Schumann, another thing I want to show you is that the Schumann resonance is good for health, and then I'm going to show this ancient concept of earthing. So Schumann resonance effects on health, right? The Schumann resonance of 7.83 hertz is vital for the human brain and body and prolonged. Okay, but let's look at some other sources, maybe something more mainstream, maybe like a .gov link over here. We can see to investigate with the Schumann resonance. Okay, there's some investigation. I'm just looking quickly. The effects include altered blood pressure, okay, melatonin, increase cancer. So I believe what they're talking about over here, you can search in more detail, but they did an experiment where they isolated people from the Schumann resonance. They put them in a container where they were blocked from all magnetic fields, and these people became sick. They became, ill. As you can see, increased chance of cancer, reproductive, cardiac, and neurological disease. Okay, well, what is earthing? Let's talk about earthing now for a moment. Earthing is now, so we've walked say spirituality. Actually, there's earthing in engineering, spirituality. Come on, keyboard. There we go. Okay, what is earthing? Okay, so we've gone now to science. We're going to go to the other side of the fence and into spirituality, a concept we've spoken about for a very long time. It's called earthing. The concept that we have an aura, and when we wear shoes, we block ourselves from the Earth's magnetic field. It's good to run barefoot, and that's very healthy. We say grounding is the practice by walking barefoot or sitting outside on the grass. The Earth has an infinite supply of free electrons. We can even talk about ions and stuff like that. Maybe I'll even go as far as say, when was spiritual earthing, I don't know, first spoken about? See if I can get anything. Besides describe grounding. Root chakra. Okay, cool. So you can find it's like a very old concept. It's been there for years, and it's something science has only discovered recently. If you check, for example, the aura, like wiki, go read, where this came. In fact, actually, when was the aura, which today we call it the magnetic field, when was the aura first spoken of? Let's see if I can find a date. Otherwise, I'm just going to jump ahead. Or a paranormal. It's probably going to give some history, some mythology. Okay. Oh yeah, this is actually quite cool. You get these Krillin photos where they take photos of people's energetic fields. Anyways, so that's a Schumann resonance, actually quite appropriately named. The guy's name was Schumann, but a shoe is something you walk on, and we connect to the Earth's magnetic field through the soles of our feet. So that's actually quite interesting. Okay, mainstream news and experiments showing that humans can detect the magnetic field. So this is an interesting one, and I'm probably going to soon get to the end of this video. Oh, wait, let me just show you something cool. Have you ever heard of animal magnetism? This guy, why was animal magnetism debunked? This guy I believe it was 1977, 1877. I'll go double check that in a few moments. He theorized there was this invisible magnetic field around all creatures. And the king and the royalty got involved, and they debunked what he was saying, and they said there was no proof, and they forbid him from talking about this stuff. But I just thought, why was animal magnetism debunked? Its effects derived from either imagination of its subjects. So it's like, oh yes, here. They concluded there was no evidence of the existence of his magnetic fluid. And if you go and search animal magnetism, you can research this more detail when you have the time. But he proposed, that let's look at a wiki page maybe, every living thing had this invisible force. Well, today we've discovered it. I mean, so yeah, it's interesting. We've got something known as the human heart's magnetic field. Okay, let's go. So there's like the Wikipedia page over here. Then we have the Institute of Heart Maths. I'll get into in a few moments. So I say over here, mainstream news and experiments showing that humans can detect magnetic fields, and you can actually learn to do this through meditation and stuff like that. But how are we doing for time? Okay, cool. Here's another one. as well as mainstream news articles. The mainstream science at the moment seems to point in the direction of entangled particles being the reason for the detection of these fields. Here's the Daily Mail. Look, I'm not a fan of mainstream news, but it's just to show people like who do believe in it. It's like pretty mainstream. Mainstream news is talking about it. I'll show you something else, maybe more interesting, like a experiment they've done in a few moments. But here's our page. Do you have a sixth sense? Experts claim they've found a the magnetic field, and you can even just go into, let's say, humans can detect magnetic fields. I have the Daily Mail. There's a couple of articles on that point. There's one over here, so that's something that you can look into. As I said, not a fan of mainstream news. They're full of nonsense. Here's another thing that you may find more interesting. So this guy has electrodes and want to see, okay, cool, can he detect magnetic fields? I highly recommend that you give this a watch. And let's go a little bit down. Okay, cool. I think I'm gonna have to end this video here. It was great seeing you all. It's been a long time since I posted on the channel. Hope you all do well. I'm gonna have to post a part 2. Cheers.